Howdy, Redesert Boy here. I just wanted to take a little bit of time to talk about the first semi-auto that I got, which was Springfield Armory 1911 Mil-Spec, and it's in stainless steel. So when I got back into firearms after I got my first revolver, and I went to get a semi-auto, I went and got this 1911 because it made me think of when I was a kid. There was a 1911 gun that even had like bullets that were spring-loaded and all that. It was called a Johnny Eagle Lieutenant. So that was something I'd always kind of wanted to get. So I got my first semi-auto. It was 1911. So let's take a look. Okay, folks, so let's go ahead and take a look at this Springfield Armory 1911 A1 Mil-Spec. We open up the case. This particular one, when I bought it, was a kind of a special deal because it also came with a couple things. This is my first semi-automatic. It was nice. It came with a holster. Wasn't real fancy or much of a holster, but it was still a holster because I didn't have any holsters. And it came with a mag carrier, a dual mag carrier or twin mag carrier, however you want to call that. So it was kind of nice. As always, you have your operation and safety manual. Make sure you read that and you become thoroughly familiar with it. It tells you all about your gun, how to maintenance it, safety information, how to take it down. So it's very important to familiarize yourself with this, with any new firearm that you have. Also, make sure before you leave the gun storage you understand the safe operation of the gun and all the safety aspects of it and how it operates and the functions of the various portions of it. It's happened to come with the coupon when I got it. One other thing too is just make sure you're following all your local, state, and federal firearms laws, ordinances, and rules. Make sure you know all the information about transporting it, carry, any concealed carry laws that you have. Make sure you get any permits or any training that you need. It's always good to get training with your firearms, and you have a new one too. It's always good to get some good supervised range training as well to make sure you know about safe operation of the firearm. So let's go ahead and see what's inside of here. First of all, there's a little packet in here. It's got a couple of Allen wrenches, but it's also got, it's kind of hard to see, but there's like a little key in here. This key is part of what they call the ILS, or integral locking system, on the Springfield 1911 A1 Mil-Spec. Here's actually the firearm. Before we go farther talking about that, let's check the weapon safe. First of all, magazine has no rounds in it. This is one of two magazines that comes with it, so you get two magazines, and they're 7 rounds each. Let's go ahead then and back the weapon. You can see there's no rounds in it, so we know the weapon is unloaded and it's safe. And put the safety on. Put the unloaded magazine back in there. So this 1911 Mil-Spec, talking about this integral locking system, that key fits in here, and there's actually a way to lock it, though I have to say I have never used it. Let's talk a little bit more. There's just a couple other items in the case with it. There's a chamber flag indicator of sorts, and then there's this there's a brush that comes with it. I have my own cleaning kit for this, for my 45s, but it's just those are some things that came with it when it was purchased. So let's go ahead and put everything back in here, and we'll talk about this very fine and nice weapon here. Get all that turned around. Sorry about that. Let me sit this down here just a moment. Put this case away outside. Oh yeah, there's one other thing that's in the case that's very important, in fact, before I go any farther. And of course, we've safety checked the weapon. But besides these nice composite grips that are on here and they're textured, there's a very nice pair of what they call Cocobolo wood grips that come with it. I used them somewhat more when I first had the 1911, but then I got to where, going to the range and so forth, I got to where I kind of wanted to put them away unless there was a good reason I wanted to have them out on there. Sometimes it's just nice to see them on there, but other than that, I just got to where I used the other grips. And the nice thing about a 1911 is there's all kinds of different grips that you can buy for them. So if you want to customize it, have a different design, have your favorite superhero on there or whatever, there's probably some way to do that. So let's talk about this fine weapon. It's made out of stainless steel, forged stainless steel slide. Kind of has polished flats. It's matte on top, which is kind of nice for any glare. It's got some serrations here for pulling the slide back. It's also got forged stainless steel frame, trigger guard here. There's no texturing here, but there is some nice texturing back here on this kind of back strap. As far as safety goes, it has a grip safety and it has a thumb safety here, right here. As you notice, this is only on the right side. This happens to be your slide release or slide lock, and then this is your magazine release here. It's got some nice texturing to it. Just pull that out. Goes back up in there. Let's look at the other side of it. Nice looking. Kind of get a view of the nice shiny barrel there, which is a 5-inch stainless steel match grade barrel. So you can see there's no safety or magazine release over here, although it looks like maybe if you went to a gunsmith you could have it changed around or put other custom ones you might want on there to make it ambidextrous. If that's possible, they could tell you that. As far as the sights go, overall this is 8.6 inches long, 5.5 inches high. It's about 1 inch wide. Like I said, it's 39 ounces. And then this nice long sight radius has a nice 3-dot type of sight picture. They call them a combat 3-dot. These sights are a little high. Be careful not to snag them on your hand or something sometimes. Although I guess it's good if you need to rack it with one hand in an emergency. So very nice, classic looking type of firearm. Trigger pulls on these are generally in the neighborhood of, I'd say probably 4.5 to 7 pounds. I believe on some of the older ones they were more like 7 pounds. And that's when you pull the trigger, you know how much force it takes. Some of the newer ones I think are more in the neighborhood of 5 pounds. And this is what's known as a single action only. So once you put the magazine in and you rack the slide, and there's a round in the chamber, if you're gripping it, the grip safety is depressed and you take the safety off, you pull the trigger, the weapon will fire. So it's a single action only. What that means, if you have a double action or a double action semi-auto, it means when you rack the slide, oftentimes there is a decocker to decock the mechanism. And then what happens is the first pull has extra force to it, like a revolver, like 12 pounds, 10 or 12 pounds a pull, and after that it's like 5 pounds. You know, and then generally a lot of people like striker fired weapons that don't have hammers because the trigger pull is generally very consistent, and that's why some people like single actions only like this. It's because the trigger pull is the same all the time. Anything else you need to know about this? Well, let's see here. Internally, it's got what they call GI style type of a recoil spring and so forth. Some of them are a little different. It just depends on the manufacturer. This one happens to have some bushing and everything that has to come off in here. You know, I would highly recommend. I made sure I had some support first time I went to. You know, I was with somebody when I saw a 1911 was disassembled that was like my 1911 because they're not all the same inside. So you want to make sure of that. And I had some support when I went to just take it apart and clean it and so forth. But make sure you have a good understanding of all that before attempting it. Because a lot of times these springs and things are under a lot of force. You always want to make sure you have eye protection and all that kind of stuff when you're doing this kind of things. Anything else to know about this? Well, there's a lot of manufacturers in 1911. Springfield Armory is one of them. This one's, I believe, manufacturer suggested retail price is $872. I think if you get it in a darker or parkerized, and I believe that might be a carbon steel finish, it's $760. A nice thing about 1911's magazines are generally interchangeable. Although I have these two 7-round Springfield mags, I also have an 8-round Kipper mag that fits in here just fine and operates fine. And I have a 10-round Wilson Combat mag to have a little extra capacity. You know, it's not very conducive to carry, but it's kind of nice to have something like that. Remember, 45 ACP is a fairly large bullet. Smaller ones are usually 185 grains up to about 230 grains. 230 grain full metal jackets generally travel in probably the mid 700 feet per second at muzzle velocity up in the 800s for target ammunition. And if you get more like personal defense, they might travel more like in the probably the 850 up into nearly 1,000 feet per second. It just depends on if a full size one like this, you probably get that velocity. That combined with the bullet size determines energy when it reaches the target. So 45s kind of do it with more bullet weight and lower muzzle velocity. 1911s do it with a smaller bullet with much higher muzzle velocity, more like in the 1,000 to 1,200 range for the most part, out of a or higher velocity out of a 9mm. And they're generally like 115 or 124 grain bullets. They're smaller. Just a little information there about that. Also, there's Kimber makes 1911s, Colt makes 1911s, Sig Sauer makes 1911s, and Rock Island Armory makes them. There's just so many different ones. You can get them from about probably $400 or something in that neighborhood, $400 or $500 at the lower end, up to as much as you want to pay. If you start buying guns like there's certain Dan Wesson models which are semi-custom, or if you get Les Baer or Ed Brown or some of the ones like that. I'm trying to think of the other manufacturers. I want to say it's like Nighthawk or something like that. You can pay, you know, $2, $3, $4, $5, you know, how many thousands of dollars you want. So they're very popular, and a lot of people. And most of the other ones are all very handmade and fitted and everything. So that's why they cost so much money. Anyway, hope that was helpful for you. One thing you want to do. I also bought another holster, which I have showed you before, which is this particular Galco holster. It works pretty good for me. I'm still trying to find the right external, it's an inside the waistband and outside the waistband holster besides the one that came with the gun. I've been looking for a nice leather one, but I haven't quite found the one I like yet. So realize sometimes it just takes patience. You know, remember, I'm sharing with you, I'm a hobbyist enthusiast. I'm sharing with you my opinions, my thoughts as to why I think this is a good choice. Right now, with 9mm maybe not being around, maybe a 45 ACP would work. Just depends on if the weight of something like this and the recoil were right for you. So make sure you talk to all your certified, you know, experts and people that you trust and your gun store folks to try to find what works best for you. Let's take another nice look at this. It's a nice looking firearm. So once again, 1911 A1 Mil-Spec from Springfield Armory. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and comment. And as I always say, be safe out there, whatever you're doing. This is Desert Boy. Bye now.